In breaking news, the Trump administration has folded in the face of two orders of two federal judges concerning food stamp and SNAP payments during the shutdown. And it looks like over $4.6 billion worth of SNAP payments are going to be made in the next several hours by the government, who has folded in the wake of two orders, one from Judge McConnell in Rhode Island and the other by Judge Talwani in Massachusetts. It all came to the head in the last 24 hours, and I wanted to update you on this fast-moving story. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF. As soon as the Trump administration decided to hold our most fragile population in America hostage and make them suffer and or die during the shutdown. I'm talking about babies and children and the disabled and the elderly who rely on food stamps and SNAP payments for nutrition and to ensure that they don't starve to death. We're talking about 44 million people in America, Americans. And Donald Trump was willing to put their lives at risk to make a cheap political point against the Democrats. Well, that led two different groups to run into court. One, a group of public interest groups and churches and other types of not-for-profit organizations and Democracy Forward. They ran into court and filed in Rhode Island. And they got Judge McConnell, Chief Judge McConnell. At the same time, 23 attorneys general led by Massachusetts and California ran into court in Massachusetts and got Judge Talwani. Now, they issued orders hours apart that were slightly different but accomplished the same thing. Judge McConnell was more definitive. He ordered that by Monday, the Trump administration either start making payments on full payment, or by Wednesday, tell him how they're going to be making partial payments with the funds that are available. Now, we've talked about this $6 billion contingency fund. It's about $8 billion per month to pay SNAP benefits. So they're always a little bit short. Now, there was another fund of money. We call it Section 32 receipts, which come from customs duties, goods coming through ports and having to pay a customs duty. That gets diverted to child nutrition programs and can be used here as well. So Judge McConnell said, gather up enough billions to have a full payment in November. And if you're not going to do that, if you're going to exercise agency discretion, then tell me the agency discretion, how you're exercising it, and how much you're going to start funding by Wednesday. Judge Talwani in Massachusetts threaded the needle a different way. She didn't order them and grant the injunction, but she told them that by Monday, yesterday, she wanted on her desk, filed on the court docket, agency decision-making about how they were going to make the payments. And if she didn't see that, she told the parties, I'm going to issue an injunction against you and get these payments made to the most fragile in our society. Well, we got the filing in both courts now. A couple days early for Judge McConnell, and I guess right on time for Judge Talwani. It is the response of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is the regulator that regulates in this area. And here's what they say, and I'm going to post this in Legal AF Substack as well here on this Tuesday. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. We are marching towards 1 million subscribers here with your help. And we've made a good chunk towards it this particular week. Here's what it says. Here's where they concede the government. The attached declaration, which was filed in the District of Rhode Island litigation, represents the U.S. Department of Agriculture's response to the two court orders, Talwani and McConnell. The United States Department of Agriculture is making all of the contingency funds available to the states for a partial payment. The declaration includes details on how USDA will fulfill its obligation to expend the full amount of SNAP contingency funds by generating tables required by the states to calculate and all of that. USDA will therefore have made the necessary funds available and have authorized the states to begin making disbursements. That's a win. That is signed by Stan Woodward, Brett Shumate, and a whole bunch of other people in the Department of Justice. Stan Woodward, a former MAGA lawyer, now number 3 in the Department of Justice. Now, here's the filing in the Rhode Island case, which we call the Rhode Island State Council of Churches case. And I'm going to have Sky Perryman, whose Democracy Forward was involved with this particular lawsuit, on this week for an interview to brief our audience. This is from Patrick Penn, the Deputy Undersecretary of Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services at the Department of Agriculture. Here's what he says. He says, on balance, of the original $6 billion in SNAP contingency funds, those food stamp contingency funds that Congress had set aside, there are $4.65 billion left, because they had already made distributions related to Puerto Rico and American Samoa, and another payment that was made related to the program. So there's $4.65 billion left, almost $4.7 billion out of $8 billion. So people are going to be getting a little bit more than half of what that they are expecting and what they need to survive. Now, this is not fantastic news. That's why I'm not doing cartwheels here. Like, hooray, the entirety of the fund. Because if you're already living, entitlement funding to entitlement funding, and you don't have enough to eat or malnourishment, having a little more than half of what you need to survive when you're below the poverty line is not great. Show up tomorrow or today at your local grocery store and only come up with 56% of what the basket holds, and see if they let you walk out the door to the parking lot. They're not going to. And this is, again, our most fragile population that we as Americans should be rallying around. There's no color. Poverty is colorblind. In fact, if it was wearing a pair of colored glasses, they'd be red, because many of the people that are below the poverty line are in red MAGA states. Yet it's the blue attorneys general. It's the public interest groups that are moderate and liberal and Democrat that are bringing the lawsuits to get this fundings flowing. They also say we can't use the Section 32 funds to make a full payment because we need those funds for other child nutrition programs, and we don't want to deplete it. Now, they don't go, it's interesting. Normally, the Trump administration goes out of its way to include a paragraph to blame the Democrats for the shutdown, now the longest shutdown in history. They did not do that. I thought that was interesting that Mr. Penn either decided not to include that paragraph or eliminated it from a draft that he might have been given. He does say in paragraph 22 of his affidavit that this is a no-win quandary, and with the two court orders about whether he's going to rob Peter to pay Paul. He can take it out of a child nutrition program to fully fund SNAP, but then that leaves the child nutrition program underwater. He also says that even if the government reopens, if he takes money out of the Section 32 funds, he's going to be $4 billion short, and then he's going to have to go to Congress to get a new $4 billion. It won't automatically replenish when the government opens its doors, because it comes from customs payments that come in once a year. I was shocked. I sort of understood that logic if it is true. And I always reserve the right to suggest that the Trump administration is lying to a federal court. I mean, I didn't find it great that he auto pen signed his name here, Patrick Penn, no pun intended, digitally signed, with an auto pen. You couldn't figure out a way to sign your name and have it scanned in. In any event, it is partially good news. It's not full payment. It doesn't mean these people Americans are out of the woods yet, as Donald Trump continues to use them as a political pawn. And we're here on election day. If you're in a state, if you can hear my voice, and you're in a state where there is an election, municipal, judges, governors, Prop 50 in California, go to the polls. I hope you're registered. If you're not, let this be the last election you're not registered in. We need all of our people to be registered appropriately and vote on time in the ways that are available to you in your states to send a message. I'm hoping that at the end of today, and I'll report on it, the results from the Virginia and New Jersey governor races, Prop 50 in California, the retention vote in Pennsylvania for its Supreme Court, all go as a message, a signal to Donald Trump that he is rejected. His ideology is rejected. His depravity and unconstitutional approach is rejected. His lawlessness is rejected by the American people. One of the first votes since No King's Day. One of the first votes since Donald Trump continued to weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Now is the time to send the message, stand in line, hit the button, drop off the mail-in ballot, get the absentee ballot there, and we'll continue to follow it. Thanks for being here on Legal AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Slide over to Legal AF Substack, where I will post these documents for your review so that you can read it for yourself. And if you can swing becoming a paid member of Legal AF Substack at $7 a month, then that helps us fuel our independent and honest commentary here on Legal AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.